Hello and welcome to the Matchbook Betting Exchange. Yes, indeed, the Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby got underway at the weekend. We saw heats over Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. Are we any close to knowing the winner? Well, I suppose a touch. I'm once again joined by the master, Paul Lawrence, the man on the microphone over the weekend. It was a marathon session, Paul, 32 heats, but that's it. 32 heats done, 31 heats remaining. So we're past the halfway stage. Doesn't quite seem that way. Obviously, enough. That's just in terms of numbers and heat numbers and whatnot. But yeah, a great start to the Derby. Some fantastic performances, but you got the impression that it was a bit of shadow boxing.
Yeah, I mean, there were some remarkable performances. There were some strange performances. We had a couple of little incidents and stuff like that. But generally, most of the fancy dogs went through. A couple of casualties, but most of the big guns went through. Yeah, and a couple of eye catchers as well.
Certainly is. Right, before we get into it, before we start looking at looking back, firstly we'll do a little recap, then we'll do a little anti-post look again before we go into the heats. Just remind you folks, pod 50, that's the code you need if you want to get your £50 in free bets. Bet 50, get 50 back. Again, that code pod 50. Check out the Matchbook Betting Exchange, well worth your while. Of course, while I'm here, check out Matchbook Insights, and of course follow us on all social media channels. Great coverage of all sports, especially football, racing, and of course, when it comes back, American football. I know we're all looking forward to having our Sunday nights back to normal with the American football PL. But for the moment, we're going to focus on our long-tailed canine friends because wonderful racing. You touched upon it there. Some fine displays. The three fastest heat winners in the opening round. The Laddie-da. As I said last week, he's as razor sharp as he ever will be. I said it last week, didn't I? I'm almost certain I said that he's a flying starter. He'll never be led in this competition. No, I said quite the opposite. I said perhaps not as sharp as he once was. He will pop out every now and again. It was every now and again last week, 28.50. Second fastest was Lenny's Desire, a dog who we both spoke of pretty well, and Balnabola Joe for our mate Pat Buckley. Three Irish runners going fastest, second fastest, and third fastest. But there were some fine displays from the home team as well. Let's get into it, PL. Firstly, Bocco's Diamond remains a hot favourite. He didn't do an awful lot wrong, but he probably still has yet to do an awful lot right. He didn't get his flying start again. In contrast, the Killiford dog that was up against him took an absolute freak start. Bocco's Diamond raced up to him. Probably did lean in on him a little bit, just looking for that line. It's not too often he's been led. He took a couple of bumps, but in the end, his quality showed. He showed great pace down the back straight, and you still get the impression that there is bundles to come from Bocco's Diamond.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I think he's probably gone in fairly undercooked, hasn't he, to peak to the closing stages of the competition. It's just that you don't want him to make a mistake and get knocked out. And we were kind of wondering how fit he was on his first comeback race since November when he was in the juvenile against Proper Heiress. But then, yeah, when Clifford Gorham came flying out of the boxes, you thought, what? And then he roared up, tried to get past him, got a couple of little bumps around the bends, but then he kind of blew him away 2-3, got a bit of a gap, and then Clifford Gorham, as a stayer, was coming back at him near the line. But he at least won, which was nice to see him get back into the winning groove again. And as you say, there's got to be more to come. There has to be.
There is no question. He's been handed a relatively kind second round draw as well. We'll get to that in time. Let's talk about the three fastest displays. No surprise to see the Laddie-da going so quick, away and gone. Just great to see how well he ran. Was quite taken by how Liam Dowling reacted at the escape when interviewed.
It was
28.50. He was like, what? He nearly threw in expletives at that point because it caught everyone unawares. We know how fast he is. He's so terribly fast, but at the peak of his powers last year in the final, he broke the clock 28.58. He's gone a full length faster. That's a UK length. It really should be altered for the Derby to 7 spots because obviously the Irish dogs are that bit faster. That our length is only 7 spots, where in England it's 8 spots. But the Laddie-da going an English length faster than he had done in the final last year. Just a brilliant performance by a dog who basically was saying to us, don't forget about me, lad.
exactly. I must admit, I think I said to you, I just thought he was I think he was he 4-7 with the firms, and I said if you could get that sort of price on the exchange, that he'd be a pretty good bet. And I actually didn't think he would do it the way he did it, but
Pretty good bet. After 2 strides, He's 107. Never mind 1 to 7,
And
2 4 to 7.
I did think there was a possibility he could actually lead probably around the first two bends, if you get what I mean, to use his draw to good advantage. But it was just like there was 2 and 3 tangled, didn't they, at the boxes, and he'd already gone anyway, so it didn't really matter what the others did because it was almost like a solo trial for him, and he was well, he was awesome. It was a devastating display, and I think it just rams home the fact that you need to have a greyhound to win the Derby that knows how to run toaster, and he certainly does that.
Yeah, he certainly does. Brilliant out in front. In second fastest in terms of clock was Lenny's Desire. Switch of seating. This fellow has been sort of checking off when sort of, especially in crowded areas. He's still very young, very raw. It was brilliant the other night. Like, he didn't absolutely fly from traps, but he got racing pretty quickly, and he absolutely put distance between himself and his rivals. I think I posted straight away on X that could be the clock. If it had flashed up at 28:40, it wouldn't have surprised me. But 28:56 in the conditions was a hell of a run. He's a big engine, this fella.
It certainly has, and I think I owe Paul a bit of an apology, really, because I said I thought he was mad putting a wide on him, but it's been the making of him, hasn't it? In that I thought you probably should go middle before you go wide, but listen, Paul Hennessy knows what he's doing, and he seems to pick the right kind of a greyhound to go deep in an English derby. He's very clever at doing that, Ian, and you know you have to hold your hands up when you get something wrong. And you're right, Lenny's Desire was mighty impressive.
He sure was. Balnabola Joe showed great early speed. He's another project dog, a dog who will continue to improve for Pat Buckley, should I say. His clock to the third bend was very, very good. It looked like it. Barefoot and Fire ran a big race in second spot. Of the English, Droopy's Plunge was fastest 28:64. We know how fast he is. Look how well he ran in the Juvenile Championship. He's a hell of a fast greyhound. He won't always dictate, but on this occasion, he was just simply too good for his rivals, and a very, very fine display. Others going under 28 second, Tifil Tarquin, Droopy's Aladdin, Keefil Goose, Rapido, Ali, Cuyo Gold, and Ballybock Nuts. That's just the English contingent going under the 29-second barrier. Of course, there was a number of other Irish runners that ran very well and did some fast times. I'm after misplacing it typically enough, but some fine performances all the same. You know, the likes of Cheap Sandwiches. Bombay Pat did Bombay Pat like type things, but big runs throughout. Is there anything else you want to mention? Anything else that really caught the eye? Of course, Boyle Sports Bob coming from well off the pace.
Yeah, he ran an absolute stormer. Yeah, and I think I said when we previewed it, I said I wouldn't be surprised for him to come and let them all cut their throats and him to come storming through. And he did just that. And he used his experience of the track to come up on the inside to steam through and nab it late. No, you mentioned Ballynabola Joe. He was the dog I took out of the comp. I mentioned to you, I was really impressed with him in the Tralee Juvenile. Things didn't go for him when he got knocked over in the first round, the Kirby, and then Pat gave him that little bit of time off, and he really impressed on a supporting race on the Kirby final night. Again, another one I thought, will he be all right in as a wide? But he certainly proved that Pat's got that right. I actually spoke to Pat and Pauline on Saturday night, and I said, just be careful of these seedings of the dogs, just in case there is an opportunity to move to middle. But I actually think he's all right out there, and he would be the one, Ian. I did say to you I'd nibbled him at 80s, and now I've gone back in again. He's the one that I really want to be with in this derby now. I think he's a special dog.
It's something we've touched upon over the last couple of years, that you like to be picking out dogs that can still improve, still young, still lightly raced. For the UK, you have the likes of the Droopy's Trade, the Romeo Tomcats, those type of dogs. In Ireland, we have the Balnabola Joe, Lenny's Desire, and others, Solomio, and those dogs. You always have hope that, even if they look like they're not quite there yet, they may still get there. Whereas some of the established performers, from the start, as good as they are, some of them just aren't good enough. And there's no more improvement in them. Whereas that's why the market is the 3 or 4 dogs that are there. Proven, Buckle Diamond, Proper RS, Bombay Pat, Cheap Sandwiches. They've all been there, done that. We know they're good enough to win. But then when you go back down the list, the more established performers that are below them. You know, obviously, I didn't throw in Laddie there. You can't be any more proven in an English Derby than, you know, being the defending champion. But then all of a sudden, you get into the younger dogs, the dogs that have the progression, the improvement, and as a result, it is a sort of a mixed sort of top of the market where you have the established performers and then the young performers, and then you go further down to get the more established performers again, because they've probably been to a point exposed. Let's take a look and remind ourselves of the top of the market, because things haven't changed an awful lot, it has to be said. Buckler's Diamond 5.8, so just over the 9-2 there at Cheap Sandwiches. I thought he was pretty professional in the opening round, just did exactly what we were hoping he'd do, Paul. He just looks like a dog who will continue to improve through the competition, much like he did in the Irish Derby. Proper ARS. Definitely excuses can be made for its opening round defeat. We'll certainly come on for that. I think it ran into one, and I think it's one. I think we do need to mention the dog that beat it was Droopy's Aladdin.
Sure.
I really like the Aladdin dog, I must say. I haven't seen an awful lot of Serene Ace's progeny, but I'll tell you one thing, one or two that I have, they know what it's about. You know, they know how to run. And this Droopy's Aladdin dog can run a bit, does a 4:07, 28.96. Just like the way he went about it. But I've no doubt the proper ARS can go lengths faster. I'd say he hasn't been off the bench since the juvenile, just looking at him.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right. I think, again, it's a matter of training to peak at the right time. But I was actually surprised that proper ARS didn't come and claim Droopy's Aladdin near the line. I think we're going to find it's actually a testament to Droopy's Aladdin that he might just be staying that better as well. So it's kind of an evens each or two conundrum, really. But I don't think you can take anything away from Droopy's Aladdin. He was in the Monmore Puppy Cup, wasn't he? And he looked good there, and he kind of looked draw dependent. But he actually on was it Saturday night? He didn't. Was it Friday? He didn't actually.
Thursday night.
Thursday night. There you go.
Third time lucky.
he didn't actually dive straight for the rails. It's a bit like Plunge as well. I kind of thought Plunge would go right the way across. He didn't. He went in a little bit. And we mentioned this last week, didn't we, about proper ARS in the early days would want to dive for the rails. Some of these dogs now, you have to notice that with experience, they're adapting their running styles. And it's something that you could kind of keep the microscope on, really, because
more importantly, toaster experience, because it is. Yes. There's no question. It's quirky. Like it's not your everyday track. It's very different.
Correct.
And I think even dogs that have been around it 10 or 15 times in the past, if they've been to other tracks, they probably still need those 2 or 3 runs around the place just to get, sort of remind themselves what needs to be done here.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think probably a dog that I put up as an exciting dog was Droopy's Asher.
Headford Asher.
No, not Droopy's Asher. Headford Asher, beg your pardon. Headford Asher. And I think the experience showed. He showed the flashes of ability, but he couldn't quite handle the track, and that is important. So you've said about these progressive...
There's one thing to be taken into account with the Headford Asher dog. Obviously, there's serious inexperience issues. He'd only had the 3 starts, but you also got to remember the makeup of the race. As the race came closer and closer, and he was getting shorter and shorter, I went on to the other side of the market. I laid him, and I laid him to be first 2, because if you remember on the inside of him, like there was Droopy's Meteor was in trap 1.
Yeah.
Or Droopy's Metaphor was in trap 1, who had blistering early speed. Look, for me, the problem was he had very limited English experience, UK experience. But if I'm going back to Shelburne Park, he's as good as the vast majority of greyhounds to the opening corner, with the exception of maybe a Buckler's Diamond Cheap Sandwiches. And any time you have a dog like Headford Asher, who's probably going to be led for the first time in his career, you have to take them on. He also had a situation where there was Boyle Sport Bob in behind him. So even if he did get a loose run in behind the Droopy's Metaphor dog, the likes of Boyle Sports Bob was always going to be charging home faster than him. And again, the inexperience probably showed more than I expected it to show. I expected more of it showing from him. But once the missed kick, that was that. You know what I mean? I suppose that's what you have to keep into account.
Yeah, Untold Rubel was on his inside, and he's always a snappy breaker. I thought, Headford Asher would probably have more early, but it's just that, as you say, the half miss kick, and it was the inexperience then. So, it is important, as you say, to look at greyhounds and their experience. Can they go forward? I mean, I thought that Ballinabola Joe was faultless, but I actually didn't think it was a very quick away. I thought it was just a sound break, and he was just devastating early that took him to the front. And I think he was found probably a little bit of maybe fitness, maybe that he's had the one look, he travelled over. And I did say to you at the time, I thought he did a 29.01. I said he'd improve massively with that, and he did. And I actually think he can go forward again, which is a bit scary. So
Yeah.
He's one of those where I just think it's a tough enough heat, but I like his makeup. I just think he's got an enormous chance to lead off. I think he'll lead Lenny's Desire on his inside, and I've actually had a bit of a go with him.
Yeah, listen. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think you UK lads now have been stitching us up. You put our 3 fastest heat winners, the 3 fastest winners in the opening round. You put them all in together in this, what is the second heat or the third heat? Like, that's a stitch up if ever I saw one. Do you know? Like, you know what I mean? Like, to hell or to Connacht, not to hell or to into the second heat with you. Like, we've seen enough of you 3. Go in there together and soften each other up. Listen, I'm not saying it was arranged, but there's definitely a chance that those little cards were hot in the draw drum. Anyway, we'll move on. Anything else you want to add to the portfolio, Paul? We were using that dreadful word.
No, you used it, not me.
Market. I know, yeah, that's true. Is there anything that you go, you know what, I could have a nibble on that each way? Is there something that you still think there's a bit of value in?
Just the Ballinabola Joe dog. That was me. I just think he should be shorter. I was really taken with him. I suppose, there's. I think the market's kind of moved where it should be now, and you actually said so. We'll let you get the trumpet out, because you said you thought that Cheap Sandwiches would end up second favourite, and so he is. So yeah, I look, Ball Sports Bob again. We mentioned him, 50s or 55s. He might have been on the exchange. He might have been worth a nibble, and he showed that he still retains the old zest. People were trying to crab him a little bit because of what he did in Shelburne, but he's proved he likes Toaster. So I can't really see past, obviously Bocco's. Cheap Sandwiches, I told you, is already in there. Droopy's Plunge maybe was a dog that I nearly got involved with. Proper Heiress, obviously flying the flag as the shortest price for England. And maybe Droopy's Aladdin. He's not really the strong running type that you think, but geez, he showed some earlier. That was class enough early when you're doing a dog for dog comparison with Proper Heiress. So yeah, those 2 greyhounds impressed me. And maybe one other. And actually, I backed Joe in the heat in the second round. I backed Aladdin in the heat in the second round. I must mention Ballybound Nuts as well, because I think he's got an enormous chance. I think he's a wrong price to win his heat as well. So maybe a bigger price, he might be a dog. And again, he's another dog that seems to be just staying that little bit better. Maybe, Ian, because now we're getting this warmer weather, the track's that little bit slicker. It's a bit more forgiving in the closing stages. So I think maybe the off the front is the place to be.
It's a Derby PL. They're going to put everything into this track. Track is going to be running lovely. It's going to be running lovely and sweet. And it was notable that it was slow enough on Thursday, got quicker, and then got quicker again on Saturday night. That was purposeful. Like, that's the situation. You have so much racing on the track over that week that, but it was encouraging that they had it running so well on the Saturday night. And going forward, I would suggest perhaps after this week, when it's just a one night, it'll be purring every Saturday night. And you don't want a situation where dogs are getting the legs pulled off them because it's a heavy track. This track will be going well. Like, we're now into the good weather. Toaster is one of those places where it dries very quickly. It can take an awful lot of water. I'd say this place will be fast going forward. Yes, you want to back strong dogs because they, when it comes down to attritional times in the Derby, that they won't have as much taken out of them. But they'll have it running as fast as it can be and safe for the early pace greyhounds. And we see it every year, PL. You know, these dogs that you think, oh, they'll struggle to see the 500 meters, and all of a sudden they're getting there. And they're holding dogs from the last bend home, likes of Droopy's Aladdin. There was another one, the Burrows dog on the outside looked for all the world. It was a certainty off the last bend, and the leader just kept it. Was it Church? No, it wasn't Churchfield Sid. I'll get back to that one. But like there were races where you go, how are you not picked up? And they still got there. You know, it's like watching races in Sheffield. You think the dog's going to win 4 lengths as it comes to arrive at the last bend, and they just never get there. It's like running downhill up the home straight. Sometimes it can be a bit like that.
Slingshot Sam, was that it? Slingshot Sam.
Slingshot Sam. It just looked like he was going to be absolutely run over. Churchfield Sid actually looked like he was going to be run over in the latter stage by Sunnyside Broxy. And he just kept on finding, you know. Now, that's the fact that Churchfield Sid is a class act. He doesn't like getting beaten either. You know what I mean? He's a proven performer. But there were dogs like that where you think, oh, you're going to be picked up. Now, on the same night, Boylsport's Bob came from 4th off the last bend to lead and going away on the line. So you can still win from off the pace, but yeah, listen, it's a derby. Out front is where you want to be. And that's why we've mentioned the likes of a Droopy's Trade and a Droopy's Aladdin from the UK. And some of the Irish runners, Baldabola Joe, Solomio, we have to mention.
Solomio,
very well. March on Freddie ran very well in defeat, but I think in defeat showed where his weaknesses can be, much like Bombay Pat did in victory. You know, you're worried about the start. March on Freddie will probably not be sharp enough when it gets to the really, really hot end of things, but I thought he'd win in the second round. Now, I must say, I thought even money or better was a fair price about March on Freddie. It's a hot enough contest, but we'll get to that. So you're not adding anything to it. I'm happy with my JT Craze money. He for the each way money, I think he'll go well. He ran well in the very first heat of the Derby at a big price. He is just one that can keep on qualifying. He was in the slowest probably of all the conditions in the Derby, given the fact it was the very first heat on Thursday night. Took a bit of shuffling around in the opening 2 bends, charged home, wins quite comfortably in 29.23. Like on Saturday night, that could have easily been 28.93 and taking away a few spots because he's got a trouble and whatnot. No question he is the engine to a 28.50 or 60. It's just a case of where he'll get the run. But as the Derby heats up, that's the type of dog I want to be with because they can't all get around the corner, all these early pacers. And therefore, pick 2 or 3. We've spoke about it last week. Pick 2 or 3 that will continue to progress. JT Craze was the one that my pin fell on. It could have easily have fallen on a couple of others. Boylsport's Bob, you mentioned last week, big each way price for a dog of his ability, as we saw at the opening round. But there are other strong runners, the likes of the Droopy's Plunge, the likes of Barntick Bear. So many. Anything else you want to add? Anything else that just you mightn't want to back, but because you've enough done, but that it might just fall to someone at home going, yeah, I like what he said about that dog.
Well, I must admit, Solomio, I think is an interesting dog to talk about because I didn't really know how good the Kirby form was necessarily. Obviously, the winner was very impressive, 8-point Ranger, but Solomio was one of those dogs. Again, I think he was in the Tralee Juvenile, and he kept kind of running off on the turns a little bit. And I said to you, I think I was a little bit worried about him. He's actually drawn 3 in the second round, and I think that's a perfect box for him. I think he'll be all right there. So he's another dog. Peter Cronin, as you said, has got untold greyhounds through to the final of the English Greyhound Derby, and this could be another lad that could go a long way for him. I was quite impressed with him, I must admit.
Yeah, funny enough, I'm actually quite concerned about his draw the next night. Not because I don't think he'll go up straight from trap 3. In fact, trap 3 is probably his box, but there is a dog in 2 with serious early speed. Is it the? Oh, it's Secundai, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Aero Secunda. Yeah, it's the first heat on Saturday night, just as I opened up. Aero Secunda is in trap 2. Pen barriers in 1. You'd expect both of them to lead him righty. Slingshot Sam will sort of edge in from trap 5, I thought, a little bit, but did show good early last time, and Ginger Shelby. So in a cleanly run race, you'd expect Aero Secundai and Solomio to go round first and second. Solomio may well prove a bit stronger for Aero Secundai, although Solomio did tie up in the opening round. I would suggest that he was probably given a chance after the Kirby, just to have a little rest, and I'd say he'll strengthen up as the competition goes ahead. That's exactly what he did in the Kirby Memorial, and we know that Peter Cronin knows the time of day. So, yeah, I agree with you. And listen, it'd be remiss of me not to mention that I napped up Solomio at 6-1 PL in the media tipping challenge. Right. Yeah. I left the trumpet. Where is it? It's over there somewhere. I'll leave it away for a week or two yet, but it brought me to the top of the media tipping challenge. I hope you know, where I plan on remaining. PL. Let's get into it though. Anything that stands out for you on the Friday night in the first 8 second round heats?
I've already mentioned the 3 dogs that I've already played as well. Banner Bowler Joe, although it is what you might call a tough enough heat. I just think makeup wise, I think he'll lead Lenny's Desire all right. And I think he'll stay that little bit better this week. Ballybound Nuts, I've said to you, I was really impressed with his early. Track 3, and Lorraine said to me actually yesterday, I told her, I said, I backed. She said, track 3, will he be all right in track 3? And I watched him at Monmore out of 4. He missed a kick and flew up, and he would probably be into lane 3 there. So I think, again, he'll be all right from track 3. And I've backed Droopy's Aladdin to see if I can get that form confirmed from the first round. So yeah, they were the 3 dogs for me in the first night on Friday.
Couple of queries. Balnabola Joe, or not queries, a couple of points of order. I agree with you with Balnabola Joe. I think he's a great makeup, no question about it. The laddie da is your issue. If he flashes out like he did last week, you're in trouble. But he's not even money to do that. You know what I mean? Now he's taking up a good chunk of the market, and as a result, the dog with so much talent and ability, and the draw in his favour, Balnabola Joe, will be a bigger price. He's certainly a bigger price now than he should be. I would suggest on the night he will be a shorter price, and the Laddie Da will be a bigger price. I think their 2 prices will be much closer to each other.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. On to the next one you mentioned there was, bear with me, Ballybone Nuts. What trap or what draw, what lane do you have Slick Sentinel in? Do you think he'll stay straight to the corner? Will he edge in? Will he stay his line?
I've got 4.5, 5, something like that. Yeah, I think he'll be all right from there.
I agree with you. I think Ballybone Nuts is a dog who perhaps gets overlooked a lot more than he should do. I think he's improved since he's come to the UK. He's definitely more professional at the boxes. He's got terrific pace to that third bend, and he was so taking in the opening round. But I have a feeling the March on Freddie might just turn a bit too close on this occasion. I can't see how he's going to do a 421 again. If he does a 406, 408, he's going to turn sort of within 3 lengths, 4 lengths maybe. And I just think he'd probably be too strong. March on Freddie would be my idea there. I think he's 11-10 in a place. I think he'll be around 11-10, 5-4 on the night. And I think I'd probably just go with him to pick up Ballybone Nuts. I was slightly concerned about Slick Sentinel in the first few strides, but I think March on Freddie's smart enough to stay his line. And if he gets around, I think he might just pick up Ballybone Nuts. So that's our first head-to-head PL, our first proper one of this year's Derby. All right. Now, granted, we're not going to have an even money betting it because you're getting a lot of money. You're not getting.
No. I think Slick Sentinel was a negative for March on Freddie.
Yeah, probably is. Probably
Sentinel just being his eye line. That's the thing. And March on Freddie's got this habit of cutting in on the bends, so he's going to have to mind himself. And I think we don't really know what Ballymac Peb's going to do necessarily, other than he will move in. But I happen to think that the 3 will go wallop.
I can't see how Ballymac Peb is even prominent in the early yards.
No.
And I don't think he'll dive in until he gets room, but he will go straight to the fence as soon as he gets room. He'll stay on well. He's a very strong running youngster, nice prospect. But I'll tell you something, he's going to be a huge price to get involved in this contest. Heat 5 is the Droopy's Aladdin. I agree with you. I think he'll probably be too sharp for Droopy's Bookham in the early stages. I like the way Droopy's Bookham ran in the opening round. He will need to trap that bit better. But bar Killiford Gorham does like another 395, and it looked like a 375. It was absolutely freakish how fast he came away.
Yeah,
I think Droopy's Aladdin's going to be in front going around the opening corner. He wins in 28.96 last time. It's rated 20 slow down to 28.76. That's good enough form to win at this stage in the Derby. And again, he's a really nice young dog, improving all the time. and just a handful of races. You can't dislike him. He's in and around the even money mark, just a fraction odds on, is he?
He was 6-4, yeah. He was 6-4, yeah.
That smile is worse than me blowing a trumpet. You know that. That's like, hey, look at me, baby.
Yeah.
Look at me, baby. Right, I'm gonna throw a couple more into the mix for the opening night. No, I'm going to leave the last heat alone because Dark Madam has been withdrawn. It gets strange. No, the first heat. I think Tiffield Tarquin. I think there'll be too much made of his opening round victory. He did everything right, absolutely flashed from traps. Although it's down as a 4:13, it looked faster. I can't see him breaking any much faster than that. I'd be willing to take him on. I don't think there's an abundance of early speed in the race, and as a result, I have a feeling that Barntic Bear could turn close enough to the speed. And I think Barntic Bear might just be the one to beat there. I think Tiffield Tarquil's the marginal favourite, just ahead of Barnfield or Barntic. I'm going to side with Barntic. I tend to agree with you about with Balnabola Joe. And of the remainder, I see there's 3 Paul Hennessy trained runners in Heat 3, Boyle Sports Blue, Dynamic Force, and Hello Diego. They will largely probably make up much of the market. Scooby the Boss will probably be maybe third choice ahead of Boyle Sports Blue. It's a strange contest. I was keen to take on Hello Diego in the opening round. I'm not sure I want to take him on here. I think Dynamic Force might just get around in front, but I have a feeling that if Hello Diego does things right early, I think he'll turn closer than he has done. And we know how strong he is from that third bend home. So I'd be very keen and see if Hello Diego was available at. I thought he might be 3-1, 4-1 on the night. I don't know if he's available at that at present. But I just
a little
thought
bit 3-1. I think. Yeah, I think you could be able to. Yeah,
so
you're right. He's got a good makeup. It's funny because
on the exchange, come near the off like this. The dog could be 4.5. It could be a 7-2 about him.
It could be. Yeah. They met actually, Ball Sports Blue and Hello Diego in Shelburne on the 31st of August last year from the identical boxes, and Ball Sports Blue flopped out and just dived for the rail straight away. A lot of these dogs, Droopy's Invent wants tight rails. Scooby the Boss has got to go sort of in a little bit. Ball Sports Blue will be going in. That's it. Jack will edge in. So 5 and 6 have actually got good makeups. I couldn't work out. I thought he took off late, Ball Sports Blue, but it's that he just doesn't seem to get going. Whether 3 will fetch him out the boxes, and I just don't know whether he can clear 1 or 2, and then how does he get a run? I don't really know, but he's just so strong. And he keeps running on late. But you're right, 5 and 6 just look like they'll get clear runs. Dynamic Force has got that early, and Hello Diego has got a good pitch just to track him round and keep on.
Yeah, I think Diego's the one for me. That sort of rings my bell. On to the second IPL. Anything that's jumping off the page at you?
I've got to say, no. I thought it was tougher because there's a lot of. I suppose if Harry was here, he'd be writing a lot of notes down because
there were quite a few people commented on how Harry was so funny. Like he was keen. It was the quietest people have seen Harry for a long, long time. And every now and again, you'd see him leaning forward and scribbling down. Listen, we have to mention the treble did come in. Okay, granted they were a very short price treble, but like when it comes down to it, it's better interest rates in the bank.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got the same 3 greyhounds on the Saturday evening again, haven't we? Bombay Pat looks like he's got a reasonably straightforward task, other than TJ's Chelms could easily lead him early. You'd think he'd kind of turn him behind. It's that trapping again, isn't it, with Bombay Pat? He just leaves himself plenty to do at lid rise, but he's got plenty of speed to get around that, I guess. But so I make him as short as the books make him, really.
2 to 7, 3 on.
Rocco's Diamond again. He's 3 on. He looks to have a fantastic makeup, Ian. There's not masses of early. I think one will probably move off. Romeo Command a little bit. Kevin's Rocket ran well and has been running Toaster well. Racket All Brute runs on. Lucia runs on. So yeah, it looks, and then Cheap Sandwiches. But what would you say about Trap 5 of Cheap Sandwiches? Should be all right from there, shouldn't he?
Yeah, I would never fear. To be honest, I'm not sure I'd fear about any trap about Cheap Sandwiches. He's just so fluent, so professional. As a racing greyhound, I'm not sure he has any weaknesses.
No.
He just seems so straightforward, so easy on the eye. He was so fluent the other night. Like, he didn't fly out, but like after 5 strides, he's going to charge into the opening corner and get by them. And that's exactly what he did. And he is a greyhound who, if you look back at his Irish Derby campaign, there was no question. He improved 4 lengths from the start of the competition to the end of the competition. I think he thrives in racing, and I think we'll see better from him. And hence, I think we were both in agreement that he probably should have been second favourite, only for the fact that, it's
won the Juvenile.
thing. Yeah, don't put a 2 Graham Holland trained runners first and second in the betting. You know what I mean? But pick a flaw. So anything else at prices, PL, in the second night? Anything that you've already played?
No, I've not had a bet in the Saturday night. I did think actually Righty was a big price. I was quite taken with him, and I don't actually think this will worry him too much. He might just fiddle his way around somehow. Like you say, Aero Secundai, Solo Mio, Slingshot Sam, they can't all lead. I've got Pain Barrier moving off, so I think Aero Secundai might need a crash over. But I was really taken with Righty, and John Mullins has this knack of getting what should I say, like unflashy greyhounds deep into the Derby.
Sneaking one through, shall we say?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I was just taken. I thought, right,
the dog has a body of work behind him. Like, he's won 25 times, second 18 times out of 89 starts. He's just an absolute pro. And when opportunity arises for dogs like that, they don't often leave it behind them. I know it's been a while since he's tasted success, but this is the type of race, as you said, where Eric Secundai, Solomio, they got in each other's way, and all of a sudden you look in behind Righty's 3 lengths off in the second bend, you go, I wish I'd taken some of those fancy prices. And could be one at a nibble. And again, if you bet in the exchange, Pierre, you could well get big price about this fella. Yeah,
I mean, it'd be a place bet for me. Be a bit, and then you'd have to have your little nibble in the win market at a silly price.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to probably leave that first heat alone. I like Solomio as a greyhound, and I've sort of spoken very well of him before the Derby. I think this is tricky. I think any other greyhound in the Derby, bar Aero Secundai, any other inside seed in his inside, bar Aero Secundai, I'd have been happy enough. But just, we know exactly how flashy and how fast Aero Secundai can be, and he's pretty professional. Second heat, Bombay Pass does look like he's going to be a short price. Barefoot on Fire is an interesting runner in the third of Saturday night's heat. PL saw the prices, and my first instinct was, my God, I'd love to be laying him at that price. Now, I think on the night he'll be a bigger price, and he'll get to a stage where I'll go, well, I'm not laying him at that price. In fact, I may well back him. But he for me, is the type of greyhound that when he's 6-1 in red hot company, I'll have a nibble.
Yeah.
But if he's 4-6 in bad company, I think I'll leave it alone. And there is definitely a little bit of edge to him. There's a little bit of jealousy to him. And listen, that was obvious in the opening round. He ran so well behind Balnabola Joe. He's got a huge engine. He's more than capable of winning a race of this nature. But at short prices, look on. Bubbly Charger will certainly come on for his first round defeat. I was a little bit disappointed with him. But again, the Matthews know their time of day. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I'm sure he'll come on for it. They'll look at the draw and go, he'll need to be doing things right. And I would say he'll be a fair bit more tuned up than he was last week. Clona Curley be staying on stoutly. I'm sick. I didn't back him in the place market last week. I thought he was the obvious one, outside of the Laddie Dad to finish second. If the Laddie Dad did things well, no better feeling is a good draw. But no, just Barefoot on Fire at very short price that he is at present. Oh, I'd be on the other side of the market, shall we say? Sing Along Molly interested me in heat. What heat is it? Heat 12. I was so pleased with how she ran the opening round, PL. Her first look at Toaster, and she ran that well. Like, if she had been around, she beats Keithville Goose. I'm so interested in her in the top bitch market. I think she is something that a lot of the bitches in this competition don't have. She just has a bit of raw pace about her. She's really strong. I loved how well she ran the opening round. And again, at prices, I definitely want to be taking on Van Tashadelic. I took him on last week. Listen, he wins well in a good time. He had a great draw. This is not a great draw. Like, he's going to really struggle to lead Droopy's metaphor. Rapido Ali ran very well last time out. Indian Bonnie's going to go up on his outside. Sing Along Molly strong. Hope's Oompa Loompa can certainly go lengths faster than they did last week. I just thought it was a tricky race for a nibble, Sing Along Molly, but I think I'd be more likely to lay Valtasha Delek as my main bet.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah, she's got a good makeup, Sing Along Molly, and she was eye catching. She was.
Yeah.
And she'll keep going through the line. So yeah.
Just need her to do things right. Those first 10 strides. You can't be in a situation where you're a length off the pace in fifth on the outside, because that's just a recipe for disaster.
Again, one run to the second run, Ian, you can get that improvement.
Of course you can, yeah. Bocco's Diamond, I think he just wins. Like, he's after doing a 407 and a 408, and on both occasions looked like he walked out. This fellow, like, he did a 393, looking like he came out reasonably well in his trial. Again, I still think he's the one dog capable of doing sub 390. And if he does it, if the track allows, I think we could see the track record. But who's to know? Who's to know? His 2 runs in Toaster, like, if you're coming in, you were just dropped in and told, look at all their form, their race form for the last month. Pick a Derby favourite, pick a dog to win the Derby. There's not a man on the planet who'd pick Bocco's Diamond if he didn't know his back form. So, we're hoping that we see the Bocco's Diamond of last year. Again, very encouraged by his opening round effort, but we know that he can certainly go 6-7 lengths faster. And if he does, they'll all have to watch out. Romeo Command, Racket Hall Brood, Ballymaclucia, they can all run. Ballymaclucia absolutely hammered home in her opening round defeat. That's very much the family trait. Racket Hall Brood is very strong. Kevin's Rocket ran very well in defeat. But, like, in reality, if Bocco's Diamond does everything right, forget about it. He's 14. This will be, again, playing prices. I think I'd like to be taking on Romeo Empire. I think it'll get tight enough on the inside. I think Droopy's Trade, Glory Lord will both sort of edge in. Droopy's Trade then tries to get back out on the opening corner, but I think early he might just edge in a fraction. But Glory Lord on Shelburne form will certainly edge in. And I just think it might get a bit tight for Romeo Empire, because he won't be in front, but he might just be close enough to be forced to check up his stride. And then all of a sudden you're looking at what can get loose. I think Droopy's Trade will improve considerably for his opening round effort. He didn't take a flyer. He's still quite puppish. But if he runs a clean corner, I think he could enter the back 3 or 4 in front. I thought he'd be hard to pick up.
He was another one. He kicked, didn't he? Actually, he was one of those. I said to you, will he see it out? But he's another young dog, Ian, and he was mighty impressive. He's got nice early speed. I mean, Back to Black's got a bit of early, and Glory Lord's got a bit of early for Craig Morris. They're drawing in the same heat. Patrick's got 2, and Craig's got 2 in this. But I took a little chance with Tricky Wiggles, and he came third. I got a little bit in the third market, the top 3, but
if it's in contention off the last bend, will it be Tricky Wiggles?
Could be, yeah.
I don't know why I found that as funny as I did. I just think I'm hilarious.
Romeo Empire, so I probably just going to be looking to track through, and it's how close he turns, I guess. But yeah, Droopy's Trade might be able to just cut loose from this sort of draw. So it'd be interesting to see if he can keep progressing in the closing stages, if you get what I mean. But a bit like what I said to you about Bailey and Bowler Joe, these youngsters can just stay that bit better.
For a dog of his experience, Trap 3 could be the ideal box from in terms of getting them out.
I think so.
Like, it'd be no shock to you or me if we did a 398.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I did say to you, I was a little bit worried about his draw, because I didn't really think he wanted to be one. But in the makeup of the race, he just looked like, well, he'd be clear anyway, so it didn't really matter. But when you get deep in the Derby and you want your draws, I think 3's a perfect box for him, really.
Yeah. Heat 15, I have no real strong opinion. I liked how Coolio Gold did in the opening round, but we're well used to seeing that from him. Just a really thoroughly professional, wonderful greyhound, I'd say, to be connected with over the years. Of the remainder, Scooby Pacemaker showed a bit of foot in defeat, but sort of just wandered around a little bit and sort of just never got really going. Droopy's Plunge, as it was done and dusted. Thought Keefel Maverick, I thought there was a little bit of juice in his price if he did things right. He's going to need to hit the lids, but we know he can hit the lids, and he's got some good back form.
He has, yeah. You're right. There's not enormous early. There's some decent. It's a decent enough competitive race, really. I was the same as you. I was impressed with Coolio Gold, and again another dog I was a little bit worried about the track one draw. It might be. I was talking to one of the lads at the Pompey Ventures Syndicate yesterday. I was talking about how the hair's driven as well, Ian. And I think when you got a dog like Coolio Gold who's quick enough to do 2360s at Romford. I think I backed him in when he was in the big coral race there at was it the Gold Trophy, whatever it's called at Romford. He was in 4. He flew out, kind of edged in a little bit, only a little bit, and then when he got one in the next round, I thought, oh, will that suit him? Sure enough, he missed it. But at Toaster, he timed his break okay, and he showed really nice dash. And it's one of those where you think, oh, 400 meters, does he stay? But he sees it out well enough. So yeah, he's a dog that if he drifted out, I might have a nibble on him on the old exchange. Yeah.
And that brings us to the last heat of the round, Heat 16. Heat 16. You won't be as busy this weekend as you were last weekend, PL, but arguably the heat of the round. There's real strength and quality here. We've got 5 opening round heat winners. Fay Point Harvey, JT Craze, Droopy's Prefect, Cheap Sandwiches, and Boyle Sports Bob. And the one dog that didn't win his heat was Romeo Steele, and he led Fay Point Harvey for much of the way. We know how good he is in the early yards of his races. This is a cracking contest, really, isn't it? I know Cheap Sandwiches will be pretty hot, and to be honest, the more I look at the draw, I'm glad he's in 5 in that company, because I think it might even get him out of boxes just a fraction quicker. I think he'll be in charge from early. Bar Romeo Steele takes an absolute flyer. I thought Cheap Sandwiches had every chance of getting around in front of him. And Cheap Sandwiches for me, short and sweet. I'm hoping then that JT Craze and Boyle Sports Bob can chase him home. JT Craze from my own each way interest, but Boyle Sports Bob, I'd just love to see him go deep again.
Yeah, I mean, from this draw, I think Fay Point Harvey will be moving off. And Romeo he's just not that snappy breaker, is he? So again, what he did was he missed it. They were drawn 2 and 3 last week. Now they're drawn 1 and 2. But again, Romeo Steele's outside Fay Point Harvey. It's just not as good because Fay Point Harvey will probably only edge off a little bit, and still they might look to go inside him. So he's actually got a tricky draw. He's got all sorts of early, a real quick dog, and if he did break, he could definitely lead, but he just struggles in the last few meters. And as you say, you've got JT Craze who's going to be sticking on. Boyle Sports Bob's going to be flying home. I think Cheap Sandwich will clear. Droopy's Prefect all right. So really, you're looking for what 1 and 2 are going to do, and then 5 probably should be there, prominent up on the outside. And if he turns behind Romeo Steele, he should pick him up all right. So that's how I read the race. Cheap Sandwiches just has to do it right at the start and get himself into the contest, and we know his class will carry him through.
Yeah, I think he'll make all. I think he'll get to the front early, and I think that'll be that. And I think that will leave Romeo Steele in a very vulnerable position, because if he doesn't lead or at least turn a clear second with trouble in behind, I think he's going to be under real pressure, because Droopy's Prefect and Fay Point Harvey, we know that they're strong, they're good all-rounders, but JT Craze and Boyle Sports Bob will be absolutely hammering home. Paul Hennessy, probably not very happy with the draw. No, he has like 7 through from seven runners, and 3 of them drawn together, and then 2 of them drawn together, and in such a hot contest, so he'll be needing a little bit of luck, but I'm sure he'll be hoping to get a sort of 4 or 5 of his team of 7 through, and if doing so, he can target a further Derby glory. He's won it twice before in the past. PL, pleasure as always. So what's the nap? What's the one that, sorry, listen, let's not just talk about the nap in terms of what to win, in terms of the one that represents the best value.
Batanabola Joe.
Batanabola Joe. Do you know what? I think in terms of value,
2 rounds running. What about that?
Yeah,
2 rounds running.
I think in terms of getting the price you want about a dog that can do what Batanabola Joe can do, I think you're right. I think he does represent the value very much in the race. I would advise those watching this now that maybe take a nibble early and hope hope to God that he is still a reasonably sort of decent price on Saturday night or Friday night, because I think he will come in for support. As I said, I think he'll be a shorter price. I think the Laddie Da will be a bigger price on the night. Now, we're not dismissing the chance of the Laddie Da, but
no,
we've been waiting quite some time to see him make a start like that. It's been a long time coming. Will he do 2 in a row? You know, it's like the buses PL. Will it happen twice in a row? But that's it. That's it. I think we have we've done a fairly comprehensive look at the second round heats of the Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby. Again, best of luck with your anti-post selections. PL there has still about half the field running for him. He's chasing it into the ground. Don't forget, folks, if you want to join up with Matchbook Betting Exchange, Pod50 is the code you need. £50 in free bets after placing £50 worth of bets. It's well worth your while getting involved. Who knows? Spend them on the English Greyhound Derby. It could be the start of a long, prosperous path here with us on matchbook.com. Don't forget to check out Matchbook Insights. Follow us on all social media accounts. But that's it for us. My thanks again to PL. No Harry, the dog Finlay this week. He's at home taking notes yet again. Happy with his first round business, I hope. I'm sure we might see him before the end of the Derby. But that's it from myself and PL. We'll see you next week. If you do have a dog in the Derby, best of luck. If you do have an anti-post interest still in the Derby, the best of luck. And we'll see you a week from now.